Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? So my story, Brother Nashi, it goes on like this. I want to confess all the things that I did. I did all of these things not because I wanted to, but because of some of the situations that my husband made me to go through. So being a pastor's wife, it's like a blessing, because most of the people, they think that you're always enjoying your life, but they do not know that sometimes there are things that happen to you, some of the things that your husband might be doing as a pastor, and some of those things you cannot tell anyone because it will destroy everything. So me being a pastor's wife was like a good thing. At the same time, life was not easy because most of the times I was home alone with my kids and my husband was busy with the work of God. And as a woman, I knew that my husband was busy with other women as well. I met my husband in my early 20s. By that time, we were both youth at this other church where we were both attending. He proposed and he said that he wanted to marry me according to the church doctrine. So just after our wedding, that was when he was dismissed from work, and by that time I was working as an accountant. So after he had been dismissed from church, that was when he said that he had a dream, and in his dream he had seen himself ministering and becoming a pastor. So life was not easy. I do not want to lie to you, even though he had these visions and dreams, but I was the one who was paying the bills. When I was not at home, he will go out for prayers with his best friend, who is now one of our long-term friends, who also serves under our ministry. One day at church, I was shocked when my husband was given the platform to preach. He started ministering, and by the word of God, he started casting away demons. After a month of him being used by God, he told me that he wanted to start his own church. I did not argue with him. I just supported his dreams because of the way that he was casting out demons. So he had to go and he had to attend this other Bible school, which is here in our country. So Brother Nashi, after he had graduated as a pastor, he kept on ministering. Since people knew that he had been performing a lot of miracles, people then thought that it was far much better to follow him when we opened up our own ministry low key, because he still did not want some other people from our church, like the elders, to know that this is what we were doing. They got to find out. Most of the people, they returned back to the church, and things were not moving well. And even though we had the church, we still needed to pay the bills because we were renting at someone's house. Suddenly, my husband, when he came back from this other church conference, that was when my husband informed me that he had found a spiritual father. His spiritual father, he said, was in Ghana. I told him that I did not trust some of these pastors, but he said that he just needed spiritual guidance from his spiritual father, and he gave me a lot of examples of famous pastors from our country and prophets that claim that they have their own spiritual fathers there in West Africa. So it was beyond my control, because I saw that my husband, this was what he wanted, and we needed to raise enough money so that we can buy a plane ticket and he can fly to Ghana. I wanted to go with him, but he said that this he had to do alone. So it was him with his friend. They went to Ghana for 2 weeks. I could not get hold of him when he was there. He only called me once, and he was like, "Can you please make some poster using this photo?" That was all that he said to me. So I then downloaded that picture that he had sent to me, and I then went to this other internet cafe and I spoke with some guys, and I told them that I wanted them to design a church poster for us, because my husband, when he was coming back, he wanted to have this very big Sunday, like where people were going to be healed, and I was supposed to write "back from Ghana." I just did that, but I was already suspicious. When they returned back from Ghana, I could not believe my eyes. We use this other big ground in our neighborhood, like it was a soccer field, and it was filled with many people. And at that time, when people came, a lot of them that were sick, they were delivered. There was even one woman who was blind, and she started saying, and this was the beginning of my husband's big ministry. We started making money through this ministry. We built a lot of properties, and we thought that it was much, much wiser to make investments in the hospitality industry, to the extent that we now have restaurants. So the problem that I started facing was that since we started operating in the hospitality industry, my husband started using that opportunity to go and meet up with his girlfriends. Since a lot of these women that were coming to our church, most of them, they were complaining, saying that they have problems of falling pregnant. My husband, if I can count the women that I think he impregnated, they might be 19. My husband has 19 kids with women from our church. So firstly, when we were doing this building, when we were building this other lodge, my husband told me that we were supposed to return back to his village. So we went to his village, and the funny thing about it was that when we went to his village, we did this in the middle of the night. We drove and we drove. We arrived in his village. This was like really late at night. That was when we went to his father's grave, and then we took some soil from his father's grave, and we returned back with that soil. And then we used that soil and we mixed it with the soil from the foundation. Just before our builders had started pouring in concrete into the foundation of one of our guest house, we then poured some of that sand, and my husband lied that he had taken this soil, he had brought it with him when he was in Ghana, and he had taken it from the church's premises of his spiritual father there in Ghana. So a lot of people wanted this soil. So my husband, always at home, he has this other 5-liter bucket that is always full of soil, and I know that he goes and he takes this soil from his father's grave. He gives people that want to have children this soil, then they drink and then they can have kids. But my husband, me knowing him, he sleeps with some of these women, and by the time that they go to their husbands, he would have already impregnated him. And I heard a lot of rumors that some of the ministry workers were dating my husband, and he gives them a lot of money. He gives them like this money in brown envelopes. So there was this other day when I returned back from the villages. That was when I saw my husband. My husband was making love with 3 women at the same time. That same night, that was when my husband confessed to me that these women that he was sleeping with, it was not him. I said, "What do you mean?" And he told me that he brought with him a big python from Ghana. So this python is the thing that licks the girl's private parts, and that is what makes us to be rich the way that we are right now. What hurts me the most about my life is that there is no one that I can share this story with, anyone that knows me. I so wish that my parents could get to know that their son-in-law, the man that they love a lot, this is what he does, but I cannot tell them, can I? Not even some of my closest friends, because I'll be breaking his ministry apart, and we are still trying to send our kids to university and building more properties. My husband said that, oh woman, all that you need to do is you need to be strong. Very soon, he said, we are going to be leaving Zim for good. We have properties, 2 properties there in Johannesburg, and 1 that we are planning to buy in England. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. That was the translation of that message that was sent to me. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world.